Okay, so if you guys are watching this, I know you guys have questions around the transfer portal, and obviously my last video on EPL, it was a flop on my part. I completely missed the audio, so y'all missed like half of what I was saying in that video. So we're gonna cover just a smidge of that, give an EPL update, as long as give an update on a 5-star defensive lineman in the 2024 class, and talk about some of these huge defensive lineman transfer portal guys. But before we do that, guys, I need to hear from you. I need to hear what y'all are talking about. So if you haven't already, make sure you do one thing. Hit that like and hit the subscribe button for me. Come on, just do it. Okay. So, gosh, where do we start with the news? And I think we'll start with EPL, and then we'll move to some transfer portal news, and then we'll end with the 5-star defensive lineman update for 2024. That's what we're going to do. Okay, so Eddy Pierre-Louis. I know I made that video. I again, guys, really apologize for screwing that up. But I'm predicting EPL to be an Oklahoma Sooner. I got some information about it yesterday around, well, you guys are going to be watching this on Monday, Saturday around 3:30. And I'm pretty confident that EPL will be an Oklahoma Sooner. He got the in-home visit from Bill Bedenbaugh, and it seems like everything has went well. Now, the big news here is Oklahoma lost Grant Bricks to Nebraska. Of course, hey, you're no stranger to that. You're like, Preston, why are you bringing this up to me? Well, here's the deal. You lose Grant Bricks, and it felt like you were losing EPL. But now you're gaining ground there. And overall, this feels like a pretty solid class for Oklahoma when it comes to the 2024 offensive line. And here's what we mean by this. You've got Eugene Brooks, who is what is like the number 175th player in the country. You've got Isaiah Autry. You've got Daniel Akinkumi, who, guys, I believe could be a 5-star, but it's all said and done at the end of like his career. Like, we'll look back and say, oh, maybe that guy at the beginning of the recruiting cycle, if he would have had a couple of years of experience, maybe he could have been a 5-star, right? I think that's what we're going to look at, right? So you got Eugene Brooks, you got Isaiah Autry, you got Daniel Akinkumi, you've got Josh Isosa out of Edmond Santa Fe. Like, I think we're going to look back at this offensive line class with EPL and go, it's pretty good. I mean, yeah, you didn't land the guys you really wanted to, but I mean, EPL is going to be an absolute monster and a guy that is going to be really hard for a lot of teams to go out there and try to stop and get past. So EPL is 6'3", 335 pounds. That's exciting for Oklahoma there. Now, let's shift gears and let's talk about the transfer portal, because I've talked with a lot of you guys in the comments. I've had some of you guys DM me on Twitter. I see you guys talking about it and asking about it constantly. When is the transfer portal going to hit Texas A&M? Because we thought, hey, maybe you would see a couple last year, but Jimbo never got fired. And he got fired this year. And then Mike Elko came in, and he's turning over the tables a little bit. So you're starting to see him, and it's not that he's going to kick some of these guys out of the program, but he is going to try to provide a structure and a stability to that program that maybe they haven't had, which is why you're seeing coaches not being retained. Now, Elijah Robinson just got a better opportunity to go be with his friend, Fran Brown, at Syracuse and be the defensive coordinator, which is a step up. And I think you might have maybe one guy or two guys. They might not be the 5-star flashy guys follow him out to Syracuse, but I think you're going to have maybe a couple dudes follow him out to Syracuse because Elijah Robinson is a man of the people. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. I think that's going to be a really interesting situation. I know you guys will probably think it's interesting too. So I was looking at this one. Walter Nolen enters the transfer portal. If you don't remember who Walter Nolen is, well, let me tell you a little bit about him. Walter Nolen, in the recruiting cycle, was, I believe, the number 1 overall player in that recruiting cycle. And he was a part of that 2022 class for Texas A&M that everybody's kind of just sat there and said, what are they going to do with it? And so you look at Walter Nolen at 6'4", 290 pounds. In his career at Texas A&M, he's had, in 2023, he had 37 total tackles, 20 solos, 4 sacks. And then in 2022, he had 29 total tackles, 17 solos, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. He is still a guy that I think can produce at a high level, but I think he needs to go to a program where he's going to get a lot of visibility every single week, and he can be the star of that defensive line. Now, here's the deal. You might be saying, Preston, why are you talking about Walter Nolen on an Oklahoma podcast? Well, so this might not be the name that y'all are looking at, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but Oklahoma might have been back channeling some conversations with Walter Nolen last year. That's what I've heard. Not sure if it's true. If that's the case, and there is interest between Walter Nolen and Todd Bates, which, to be frank, Walter Nolen's top 3 was Tennessee, Georgia, and Texas A&M. Alabama was right on the outskirts. So I don't think Clemson was really in that recruitment. But you look at Walter Nolen and say, if Oklahoma could get a talent like that on campus with David Stone and Jaden Jackson and PJ Adebayor and R. Mason Thomas and Grayson Halton and some of the other defensive line talent that they have here, which also Philip Paye, I don't know if you guys remember him, but apparently he's still on the team and he's going to be eligible next year, right? So Walter Nolen, I think this is a name that OU fans should lightly watch. I expect Walter Nolen to end up at Tennessee, Georgia, or Alabama. Those are the 3 schools. If I had to pick today, I would submit a prediction for Bama just because it seems like when you need to rehab your career, whether you're a coach or a player, and I'm not saying Walter Nolen needs to rehab his career, but if he wanted to go out there and start and shine right away and really have a chance to climb up NFL draft boards, Bama would be a great option. Obviously, Georgia would be a great option too. But Georgia, I feel like you can get lost in the weeds a little bit. Alabama really could use a guy like Walter Nolen right now. So you guys will have to keep your eyes on that. Now, the next one that I think we need to pay attention to here is a guy by the name of Chris McClellan. You guys remember who this guy was? So he's from Owasso, Oklahoma. He was a part of the 2022 class for Florida. So he's 6'3", 295 pounds. And in 2022, he had 23 total tackles, 7 solos, 1.5 sacks, 1 fumble recovery. And then here in 2023, he's had 23 total tackles, 7 solos, a half a sack. He didn't have forced fumble or a fumble recovery, but that's okay. So this was a guy that was the number 113th ranked player in the country. And you look at it and say, another Oklahoma kid ended up at a school out of state. And this was the theme during the Lincoln Riley era. So I look at Chris McClellan and say, although he's at Florida now, and maybe he might not be familiar with the staff at Oklahoma, he was familiar with Oklahoma and Calvin Thibodeau. Now, we don't have Calvin Thibodeau here, but Jay Valai at Alabama was recruiting him. So you have some connections. He's from this state. Maybe he would be willing to return home. And you get a guy like Chris McClellan teamed up, and you don't get Walter Nolen or let's say David Hicks doesn't hit the portal or Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy doesn't hit the portal, but you just get Chris McClellan and you team him up with David Stone and Danny Okoye and all of these guys, you're still looking at a really, really fun defensive line class. Now, we're going to shift gears out of the transfer portal, and we're going to end this video here talking about the 5-star defensive lineman, Dominick McKinley. And I think this one, it's important to talk about here because Dominick McKinley, from what I've been told, he was committed to A&M because of Elijah Robinson. And I was told that commitment's probably not going to stick anymore. However, this is not one that I would, if I was an I am an Oklahoma fan. If I was in your shoes, I would be placing my bets on. Dominick McKinley, at 6'5.5", 280 pounds, definitely is a talent that anybody across this nation wants. Borderline, I mean, he's a 5-star according to 247, but according to the composite, he's a 4-star at number 39. I like Texas here. I would follow Hank South's prediction for him to land at Texas. And I would expect Wiltfong probably would be changing that prediction as well. However, I also expect that since the staff is taking in-home visits, that Dominick McKinley's probably going to be getting a visit from Todd Bates and Brent Venables, the man, the myth, the legend himself. I expect it's going to happen. Texas A&M, you would imagine they're going to continue to try to push. LSU's probably going to try to push. Bo Davis in Texas, though, I would give the advantage in this recruitment. So if you're Oklahoma, I would not count my bets on Dominick McKinley being a part of this class yet. But you never know. Maybe an in-home visit changes things. I just don't want to give you guys false hope here. And I hope you guys could appreciate that. So guys, I want to hear from y'all. And I want to hear what you guys think. And I'm going to be doing some more digging. And I've got some updates on a 2025 defensive lineman. I just didn't really want to put them in this video. So as I get some more updates on some of these 2025 guys, I'll put those in another video because we'll do another one dedicated just for them. So make sure you're hitting that like, hitting the subscribe button. You guys are keeping up with this content. Guys, I'm trying. I know I'm not the big insiders of the world, but I'm trying to bring you guys good content, and I'm trying to bring you guys something maybe that you guys aren't able to see, or maybe that hasn't been said already. So really appreciate the love. And just like I said, I really appreciate if you guys hit that subscribe button. It means a lot to me. And I want you guys to join the discussion and let me know what your guys' thoughts are about any of these guys that have hit the portal, or maybe even some of these guys that are committed elsewhere. Do you think Oklahoma